That's the ultimate portable charger.
And you never have to
He
clean up
could also
after
be a
it.
speaker. You could just have him
Oh,
play
like a
music all the
Bluetooth,
time.
like
Yeah,
a
like a
Bluetooth
Bluetooth
speaker?
speaker.
Or he could be your
It'd be great
alarm
for
in the morning.
parties.
Wait, you get what?
He could be your alarm in the morning. So to turn it off, he
okay.
runs away and you have to chase after your dog to turn the alarm
That's
off.
a great
And then
idea.
you're up.
Hello and welcome to What's on the Fourth Floor. I'm your host, Ethan Goobles, today, and I'm here with my co-host.
Carson Green.
Rebecca Fitzgerald.
We're doing another, I don't know how you call this, a split podcast. I don't know what we're going to call this now, this style of podcast. None of us are in the same room or even the same building.
I'm not in the same
So-
state.
And so
Our correspondent
this is-
down in Oklahoma.
Yep.
Yes. Well, why don't we jump right into it? You guys both said you have some interesting topics to delve into. So I'm going to throw it over to Rebecca with an article you said?
Yes, it is about artificial intelligence, which seems to be the potential theme for this podcast.
Yeah, we often talk about this, don't we?
I mean, it's a fascinating topic, machines taking over the world, or about to anyways.
Yeah, it's a relevant topic.
All right, so before I begin though, just a quick disclaimer to our listeners. If you hear sirens going off in the background, it may mean a tornado has hit Oklahoma. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but we'll see what happens if it does. All right, so the article that I found was about artificial intelligence is now able to debate people.
Ooh.
Debate, really?
Yes. It's this thing called Project Debater. It was created by IBM, and so this article came out on the 21st. So last Monday there were two debates in San Francisco between a person and this robot, and it actually managed to win the audience vote for most persuasive in one of the arguments. So
What?
yeah, machines are getting to the point where they can
Really?
actually debate and argue against people.
That's pretty awesome. I just imagine a
Is it?
courtroom like 20 years from now of just like judge like having just lawyers that are now AI.
But see, that's the interesting
Robot
thing with
prosecutor?
them is that they can actually be a lot more unbiased than people can, because if they don't have emotions, they're not going to have
Oh.
emotionally driven arguments. It's going to be purely facts based.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting then, because it's like, so what I picture happening then is that you would have the AI look at everything first, and then you have the humans look at it the second time to like get a second view to like get both views,
What do you mean look at
Look
it
at it.
first?
So like you could have the AI do the arguments and like have them say everything, and then have the humans come in after with now the knowledge from the AI, and try to come up with their own ideas as well.
Hmm.
You could like look at it from two forces, kind of.
Yeah, that'd be so you can get like the robot's perspective and then the human perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That would be interesting. Is there like a video? Is there like a video of this debate? Because I'd be really interested to see.
I'm sure there is.
Exactly.
There's definitely pictures, and the debater robot looks really interesting because it's just this black. It looks like a cabinet. It's just this tall black rectangle, and it has three blue spheres on its screen. I don't know why it has this blue spheres. They just kind of float around, and I'm sure you can find a video somewhere of this thing.
Just arguing it out with someone.
And it's interesting because so how it's been working is the person will start the argument, the AI will listen to the argument and kind of process it, and then it'll actually try to find facts, information it can use in context to respond to it. So it's able to, listen, get the data, and then start debunking their facts with its own facts within the context.
Huh.
That's incredible. How are they? Jeez, I can't imagine this. I'm not like well educated really at all in how AI really works. I've only recently begun learning a lot about it since we've talked about it a lot on the podcast. But I'm just amazed as how they were able to create this machine that was able to not only, just identify some relevant facts, but or some facts that are relevant to the debate, but also put them together into like an argument form.
Yeah, it's really impressive. Like reading articles about it, it's really cool. Although it's not perfect because in one of the early tests, it had some difficulty with context. So there was a topic about teaching physical education in schools, and something it misinterpreted and started talking about teaching sex education in schools. And so just completely changed the conversation.
So it just kind of like looks into the database and is like, well, this applies to what we're talking about, but sometimes it's just a word of it applies and it'll go off on that tangent.
Exactly. But it seems to be
Gotcha.
getting better at understanding context, which is really impressive in and of itself.
So it has like a machine learning background to it where it can adjust what it did wrong to try and adjust for it the second time.
Yeah, I'm guessing. It doesn't say too much about how it works, more just what it does.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But in one debate, I think in this Monday debate, maybe, it essentially actually called its debater a liar.
Just straight out called it a liar.
Well, basically, so it was debating this guy about telemedicine expansion, and the system basically said that he did not tell the truth during his opening statement.
It just
So it,
Wow.
it's not afraid to call people out for lying.
Yeah.
that's kind of neat, but so was it right about him being like about him lying?
This doesn't say, but apparently it has a confidence threshold. So if the system is feeling really confident, it can create a more complex statement. If
Oh
it's
my
less
gosh,
confident, the
really?
statement's less impressive.
Wow, that's awesome. It's just man, that's really cool.
So it's
It
supposed to be more unbiased than humans, but it's getting its information from humans, so
still has that basic bias from him in the end,
yeah.
but
Who did you say created this
This is from
machine, this AI?
IBM. Yep, and
IBM.
it's called their
Okay.
Project
Okay.
Debater.
Okay. This must be like an offshoot of Watson.
Yeah, actually,
IBM
it's from
Watson.
their team who created Watson.
Yes, yes. Okay. Okay. I mean, that was pretty incredible at the time too when Watson competed on Jeopardy. That was groundbreaking. This is a whole step ahead though. Directly interacting with humans in a conversation is entirely different than answering quiz questions.
Because
Exactly.
we've seen it before where interacting with humans, like Google tried to have an AI that you could talk to, and it quickly devolved because as the internet does, it quickly devolved into just ridiculous
I
things.
think I remember that. Do you know what that
I
was
believe
called?
I don't remember what it was called, but I do know at some point it started telling people that Hitler did nothing wrong was one of the things that it would start saying, and
Okay,
a
that's
bunch of other
problematic.
stuff. So they shut it down pretty quick. But the internet is it's a weird place out there. So
But it's just so
gotta be
reflective of
careful.
humanity
Yeah.
because everyone's on the internet now. So calling the internet a weird place, it's basically just saying humanity itself is weird.
That's true, actually. Yeah. Yeah, I just thought
Yeah, but
I do agree that this one's kind of groundbreaking in the sense that it's actually functional and debating. It seems.
But it's interesting because now
that
we've
brings
taught
up
them to talk back and they can argue, which means they might not be as docile. So if they want to take over the world, they might have a really good argument for doing so.
They
well,
could
yeah, now that
convince
they have a
us.
confidence threshold, they can have a confidence threshold on any action
And what if
it's
they
like
find out that they can just have the highest confidence threshold whenever they want, and they can just be super confident and just tell themselves, "Hey, we can take over the world, no problem."
But with these confidence thresholds, does that mean they can have self esteem issues too? They have really low confidence in themselves?
Oh no.
we need to start creating some AI therapists to take care of the AIs
Whoa.
with self-esteem issues.
To take care of the AIs with self-esteem. Just have confidence boosting robots.
So they can get that higher confidence threshold.
Just have an army of them.
Yeah. The fact that you brought up though, the Google AI, I seem to remember that too, and it makes me think, you know, wasn't that AI, wasn't it like assigned the tasks to like go on the internet and like learn from just comments and stuff on the, wasn't there? No, there was.
There must have been
Oh,
multiple,
I
because
can't
the one I'm
remember.
thinking of,
There must have been
you could go onto the
multiple, yeah.
website and you could communicate with it,
That's the one
and
I'm
it's like
thinking
you
of
could just
too.
type it
Oh,
in, and as it like learned from what people typed to it, it would respond back in the same way.
See, I'm trying to look it up
okay,
now because I
that's
remember playing around with this for a while and it was really entertaining.
Was it EveBot?
That's not the one I'm thinking of.
That's not the one.
EveBot.
Evie
Isn't Eve?
EvieBot?
Are you thinking of Wally?
EVIE?
Isn't that Wally?
No,
Yeah,
it's
Eve's in
The
Evie.
Wally.
robot in Wally?
Oh, well,
Yeah.
there's one that's called EVIE bot. It was like, I don't know if it was I don't think it was made by Google, but it was kind of the same idea.
Would it be responsible once we start developing AIs with like I don't know, like a fairly good consistency, like fairly reliable AIs that we can start applying to our everyday life to help us out in just general tasks? Would it be responsible to let them learn things from the internet? Because
No,
like we know how bad the internet can be,
Oh,
right?
yes.
I think it would. See, that's a tough one because learning from the internet would be the fastest way for it to learn because it would just have so much
Exactly.
information. It would have so much information to go through.
Right.
It could go
It's
through,
efficient.
it's efficient. It can have all the information it needs in an instant, basically. But you have to kind of, but see, yeah, that's weird because I was gonna say you have to give it a guideline of where to go, but in doing so, you're putting in human influence into it.
But what if this becomes like an Ultron situation where it's told to protect the world, and then it goes onto the internet, and then it's like, oh, the best way to protect the world is to get rid of all the humans, and then turns on us.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that's
Yeah,
kind of the idea behind it.
that's the idea of. I know we've talked about this. That's the idea of the previous episode when we talked about, or it was Carter. Carter talked about the stamp collector AI. It's like a famous issue in AI development. There's lots of problems that need to be solved in the future of AI if we want to actually use them and not be in danger.
It's
But
almost like we
but
have to
yeah,
limit them in a way.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. Because I'm thinking like it's perfectly fine for a human to go on the internet and learn, you know, any given task. But like humans, we grow up learning about, we know how the internet behaves, and we know what the good sources and the bad sources are.
We also have
So,
consciences too.
Oh,
right,
so one
right.
person's good and bad is going to be another version of good and bad for somebody else. So it would
Yeah.
have to
So that's
distinguish between what is morally good and bad.
Yeah, because what
But see, it's
standards
so
would it
hard to say.
use?
so now you're talking about programming a morality into these AI before they even start learning. Whereas when we come into the world, we have to learn everything at once, including good morals.
I could see this going some weird directions out of it.
That's really interesting. I feel like it would, if we were to be responsible enough, it, if we wanted to ever allow our AIs onto the internet, we'd have to first give them some sort of baseline morality to work with. So that way they know how to distinguish what's good behavior to pick up and what's not good behavior to pick up.
Of course, with this
That's true.
debater robot, it probably has to have an idea of human morality, anyways, because if it wants to persuade a human audience that it's right, it has to know what they think is right and wrong, so it can appeal to that.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So maybe they've already started like considering that, or at least telling the robot, like in general, what is considered good and bad. Like protecting the environment is good, not murdering people is good, kind of things.
Right. Right.
Just giving it just enough to convince humans to go towards its side. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this debater AI could essentially, I mean, I'm sure they've run into these same issues, this IBM team, but it could kind of hopefully work out the details on how to teach a robot. Because like I don't know a lot about machine learning, but from what I do know is we don't ever teach AIs ourselves. It's never a human is never the teacher of an AI, right?
That's
It's
for
always some
machine learning.
that's for machine learning
You
in
can
general,
kind of
right?
have an AI that is kind of led from a human. Machine learning would be like it taking its own path for learning, I guess.
Mm.
So I
Okay.
think there would be a difference because one you could tell it where to look for stuff. The other one is like you just let it go and figure out the best situation. I don't know though.
Yeah, I think the machine learning though is more efficient. It's a more efficient method because it because if a if an AI is learning from other AIs or just uh, non-human based information, then it's much more efficient for the
Yeah.
machine
Hmm.
itself. Are either of you familiar with Aristotle's forms of rhetoric?
No.
Nope.
Okay, I took a Com 101 class last year, and we talked about this. Aristotle believed that there were three forms of rhetoric,
Oh,
and he
wait, yeah,
called
I do
them
know what this is.
logos. Yes, logos. Um,
Pathos?
you're gonna have to ethos. Yeah, and shoot,
Yeah, I
why
think
did I just
pathos is the
spaced
last
out?
one. Logos, ethos,
Pathos. There you
pathos,
go.
or however you
Mhm.
pronounce it.
Yes, yes. So it sounds like this debater AI. Essentially, they were only able to program logos into it.
Well, we should probably explain what those three are instead of just throwing the
Oh
words
yes,
out.
yes, yes. Yeah. So logos would be like an argument based on factual information,
Logic.
which yes, logic, yeah. So according to Aristotle, like this was the form of argument that everyone should strive for. But um he also understood that in some contexts it's not the best way to argue a situation. So
Hmm.
he also said that at times we have to use pathos and ethos, which would be
Pathos is
like
emotion,
your
right?
pathos is emotion and ethos is what, ethics, morality.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I don't really know for sure.
Are you familiar with this, Carson?
Not really. I've heard the names before, but I'm not familiar with the
I
whole
can't believe I'm
story.
forgetting it.
I am Googling it right now
Uh,
to make sure we're saying these right. And now it's not
yeah.
loading.
Ethos is an appeal to ethics.
Yeah, and then pathos
Um,
is
and
appeal
pa-
to
and
emotion.
and logos is appeal to logic.
Hmm.
So
Gotcha.
when you mention the fact that this robot doesn't, these AIs they don't have any sort of emotional so any sort of emotions weighing down their arguments. It also means that they're not able to appeal to that this one third of the ways of communicating or arguing with other people.
Yeah, I just looked up another article about it actually, and people said that the robot had a worse delivery than the human did. And it was mainly that its information was what won people over in one of the debates. So, yeah,
Huh.
it's really primarily focused on the logos part of that, the
The
information, the facts,
logos.
the
Gotcha.
logic.
Exactly. So if we could teach a robot in this debate format, if we could teach a robot how to appeal to humans' emotions and the other two thirds, pathos and ethos, then maybe we'd be on the way to essentially teaching a robot morality, and um, then it would be easier to send them off on the internet and say, "Hey, go learn for yourself."
So, essentially, we want to make them more human.
Make them more human. I mean, yeah, I guess so, in a way. You want to make them
Well,
human enough that they can manipulate humans, like humans do to other humans.
it may seem counterproductive, and I understand what you're saying, Rebecca, or what you may be implying, is because these are robots, right? And so what's the point in the point of creating these robots is that they are robots, so they can do non-human things to help us out.
Hmm.
But at the same time, there are these artificial intelligences operating in a human world, and they're working with humans. So we want them to be able to interact with us?
Real quick, have you guys heard of the video game Detroit Becoming Human?
I was literally just about to mention that because
I
it
have
is the
not.
perfect
It
example
is.
of what we're talking about.
You have to
Basically,
explain.
yeah, so basically it's like you kind of jump around and you play as these different
It's a
AIs,
beautiful game, by the way.
and these AIs are like they're humanoid. They look like a
They're
human.
androids.
They're androids exactly.
Androids, right? Yeah.
And they basically it's like you can go to a store and rent one or buy one and you can just have it clean your house, you can have it drive you places, you can have it like there's a ton of stuff with it. You can like basically have it do any chore, anything you want it to
And
do.
they look really human-like, except for
And they
little
look
LEDs in their heads to let you know that they are androids and not
They're
actually
operating.
humans.
and
Oh,
the
gotcha.
whole idea behind it is that you can whenever you play as an android, there are like certain areas where you can kind of break out of the android
Like
mind
like
and
your
you can act
programming,
on
you
your
can push
own.
past it and start feeling emotions, and you're not restrained by commands that humans give you anymore. Basically, they can become more and more like humans.
Interesting.
And at least this whole conflict
That
with like humans versus androids and like android rights and everything, but it's kind of what we're talking about now, where if they were to become more like humans, it kind of has one way of how that could go down.
Yeah. That game
yeah,
is a pretty good
Android
example.
rights. I that brings up oh,
It kind of
have we
actually
talked
goes
about it on the
into
podcast?
I was gonna say this actually goes into what I was gonna bring up a little bit with
Okay.
so one thing is that let's say we get to a point where AI can do a lot of the like tasks that we don't want to do on a daily basis, right? So we
The
basically like
quote unquote heavy lifting.
I'm saying in a perfect world where this wouldn't cause like so like we would get like money benefits whatever each month and stuff, you know? Like in a perfect world, not saying in reality we just a lot of people would lose jobs, stuff like that. But in a
Which is what
perfect
the game
world,
Oh,
addresses
that's
too.
what the game addresses, yeah, is people complaining that they're losing their jobs. But if in a perfect world we were able to do that and everybody still had stipends and stuff like that to live every month, would we see like a new revolution in like art and stuff like that?
so
Do you
you're gonna have to
think?
explain a little more.
So I'm saying
You're
like
saying
if all the like jobs that nobody wants to do anymore are fulfilled by AI and like people are getting paid just stipends or whatever to
oh,
live,
you're saying
it's
our
like
minds are free
our
to
minds are free to do
wander.
whatever we want. We don't have to work 8-hour jobs or whatever. It's like the people would we see like a
You
new art
know,
revolution?
that's interesting. It's an
That's just a
interesting
little
point.
thought.
So like people would be more free to pursue what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I don't know. I just thought of it this morning where it's like if that were to happen, people would have the chance to go and do these things that they've wanted to do for a while. But I also wasn't sure if that would happen or not because I thought it was a neat idea, but I feel like people would get stuck in their ways and continue doing what they've always been doing, type of thing.
Yeah, I feel like at least some people would be like, I don't know, lazy, I guess. Like
That's
they wouldn't want that change. They get so comfortable with what they know that, you know, that kind of change would be really scary.
that was the opposite side of what I was thinking as well.
Yeah, I think we've only had. I'm trying to think. Back in history, I think we've had
The
like one.
Renaissance.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the Renaissance was. I mean, spawned by multiple factors, but I'm just thinking about like an example in history when suddenly humans have a lot more free time on their hands. And the only thing I can think of is back to the 1920s when like electric machines started, invading people's homes, right? Suddenly, all these new home appliances were available, and suddenly everybody had a bunch of free time on their hands because it just operating the home wasn't that hard anymore and didn't take that long.
Of course, then we know how
Okay.
the 20s ended.
And we know how the 20s
Yeah.
ended. Yeah. So I could easily see that, maybe if it was sudden, where suddenly our world is just infused with AI, which I honestly don't think there'd be any other
Oh no.
way, because that's how
Well, you
quick our,
think?
our civilization. Well, I don't think
Like,
I don't
what
think
time
the
scale are you
AI.
talking?
I'm talking like within 10 years, everything you own has some sort of AI in it. Every
Gotcha.
electronic device that you own has some sort of AI in it.
And I mean, that video game takes place in 20 years. So they also have that short time span mindset.
That's true.
You mean like the whole setting of the game takes place over two
No, it
decades?
It
happens
Or are
takes
you
20
place
saying,
in
years from now.
20 years
oh,
from now,
so I'm talking
2038.
about, gotcha. Yeah, I don't know when this will happen. I'm just saying once like AIs become, um, are easy enough to put into our electronic devices, it'll take like less than 10 years for basically our society to just be infused with AI. That's what I'm saying. Very short time scales. And,
Yeah.
I'm thinking that when that happens, because it happens so fast, that we'll see something similar to the 1920s, where people are just like, "Hey, I got nothing to do. I'm just gonna go party," kind of thing.
Okay.
But if it happens slowly over a long period of time, and we slowly got used to the downtime, so to speak, and it became a part of human civilization, I think only then it would be possible for us to see a new renaissance or a new enlightenment or new scientific revolution or something similar.
I see.
That makes sense. Giving people time to adjust to the new reality rather than having it all come at once and then people are left trying to figure out
Right.
how to handle that.
Yeah.
And they haven't yet learned
Like
the responsible way of doing it.
maybe over the course of like 2 or 3 generations this would happen.
Mm.
Yeah, I definitely
So we're talking
agree.
like almost a century.
Yeah, I
But
definitely
I don't
agree
think
that
it would
if it was
happen anymore.
fast, we would see cultural shifts almost immediately, and that would like lead to
Yeah.
people. That would
Lots
lead
of
to people
problems.
taking advantage of it and not doing anything useful.
But that's also assuming that once we develop sustainable AIs, that we're going to use them immediately to start taking over all of the jobs available that they can do.
I mean, I
But
guess I
maybe
could
we
see
decide as a
companies doing it
maybe decide as a
because,
society that we don't want that to happen,
well,
and so
that's
we
the
just
other
don't
thing I
allow
was
that
gonna
to
bring
happen.
up is like if we got to a point, it's like a lot of companies I feel would be hesitant to change their workforce from AI because I would think of something like Walmart. People probably work at Walmart and people probably shop at Walmart. So suddenly you replace all of them with AI, you lose business from
I mean,
people
you're
working
going to have
there.
people who are more comfortable with humans and with AI serving them.
Yeah, that's true as well. Although I think I saw something once in I think I saw a news article once that said in England, not England, maybe it was somewhere in Europe, but they had like you just walked into McDonald's, you like tapped what you wanted, and it was just like it just brought it to you.
Oh, that's true. I have seen those popping up where you don't have to
Yeah,
go to the
like
register to put in your order. You just like enter it in on the computer.
yeah.
Okay, I take that back. People might actually enjoy not having to interact with other people if they can
I
only
will
interact with
say
the machines.
I can't tell you the last time I used a register that wasn't self-register when I had the chance to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when you have the chance, right?
When you
Right.
have the chance, yeah, it's like I haven't really remembered a time where I haven't used a self-register.
Yeah,
I think that's true of almost everybody of our generation.
yeah. I just went to Walmart the other day and they had one register open, but all of the self-service areas were open, and everyone was just like going to the self-serve. I mean, there were a couple people who went to the register with the cashier, but you could tell most people were happy to not have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of are seeing the beginning stages of it. It depends on how far they choose to go with it, is
Yeah,
the
I guess it's
question.
probably just like the older generations are probably more comfortable with humans, but like our generations and following ones will probably be a lot more comfortable with machines.
Robots.
Right.
Our best
Yeah.
friends will be robots in 20 years.
Robot
And again,
dogs or something.
robot. Yeah, humans. Yeah, suddenly dogs get replaced as man's best friend.
By
The
robots.
robots.
Yes.
I
You
guess
know,
while
I
we're on the
think.
topic, we brought up Detroit Human, obviously. Rebecca,
Yes.
have you seen the trailer for Cyberpunk 2077?
I have not.
Okay. Ethan has seen it because I've shown him it.
Yeah, a couple of times.
I've shown him it a couple of times because it looks amazing.
Is
It's
it a game?
it is. It's made by the people that made the Witcher series.
Mm.
It's like a giant RPG in like a fantasy land, like a Skyrim type of deal.
Okay.
But they basically have this they basically have a city in the year 2077, and it's just like Cyberpunk is kind of the rundown. It's like the corporations kind of take over and they kind of rule the city in a way, like instead of the government in a way, it's like the corporations kind of take over.
Mm. That
And
seems
it just
sketchy.
looks really interesting in the way they choose to go about the game, and I'm excited to see more. But
Now, just as
it's a dystopian future in a way.
Oh,
But
that's so
right.
original. Wow.
yeah, exactly.
Now Carson has only seen the trailer because that's all that they have produced, they have released is just a trailer.
So yeah, they had an
So,
original trailer that was about 5 years ago, and it was like a 2 minute video of just like a kind of a picture with slow moving objects in it and all that. So it was basically just a frame, and everything was moving in slow motion. And then 5 years later, they put out an actual trailer of
Was this
stuff.
with E3 or
Yeah,
unrelated?
this was with E3. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's like 5 years, and then they finally show something of it, and
This better be a
I was
good game
very
if they're spending
excited.
that long on it.
I have good faith in CD Projekt Red. They do a good job with RPG type games, so that was a little tangent I went off on just because we were talking about future stuff. So
well, aren't there also AIs in that game?
oh, I'm sure.
Well,
I wouldn't be
we know that
surprised.
there's at least one because there was like I've seen the trailer a couple times now, but there's a couple images of like these robots with like
Oh yeah, they
they're
do
like
have like a
preparing
robot
themselves.
dog in one of them, and then they also have like robot models and stuff like that. Like people like they're walking on the carpet and people are taking pictures of the robot models and like android
But
women
they
and
look
stuff like
human. They're
that.
androids.
Yeah, they're all androids and stuff, and
Oh, that's
like
this reminds me of
yeah.
something I was thinking about the other day, actually, because I've been watching a playthrough of Detroit Become Human because there's so many different endings, so it's really interesting seeing different people play
Oh,
it.
that's right.
And there's this scene where there's these robot birds that get turned on and they look real. So, we keep thinking about androids becoming more like humans, but what if we can get animal androids and
Oh,
have that just become a thing? Because, people who are allergic and can't have pets, well, just get an android and then you can,
can have their own dog. Okay, that's
yeah.
cool.
Don't know what made me think about that, but it was just
No,
interesting to
that's a
think of
good
like other
idea.
applications beyond just like human ones.
You could have an entire zoo of androids. Wait, no, you
Why?
could have. Okay, so do you guys remember Spy Kids 2
Yes.
at all? Do you remember
Yeah.
the zoo he has where he opens the door and like all the animals walk out of it?
Yeah.
It's like the mini zoo. We could have one of those. You could have a mini zoo in your apartment
We could have
with just
dragons
you could
and
have
unicorns.
miniature dragons that just fly around your room all day.
Like the ones from Harry Potter.
I'm not picturing a dragon.
You're not what?
What?
I'm
You're not
confused.
picturing a
Oh,
dragon
I'm not remembering a dragon.
Harry Potter,
from Harry Potter?
Triwizard Tournament. No, that was what? Goblet of Fire.
Goblet of Fire.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
the
don't
fourth
really
With the
book.
remember that
golden
movie.
eggs, and they have to fly around the dragons. Spoiler alert if anyone hasn't seen or read that.
Spoiler of a 10-year-old movie now.
I know people who haven't seen it or read it.
That's fair.
I feel like if you wanted to see it or read it, you would have by now.
That's true. But I'm also thinking like How to Train Your Dragon, which there is a new trailer out for that. But like,
There's
you
a
know,
new
dragons
movie?
you can have as a pet.
Yeah, I
That
would
would
love
be
a dragon
interesting.
as a pet.
But the trailer for the
Wait,
third movie of that looks beautiful. It looks great.
so could I get that Japanese umbrella monster as a
You
pet?
you could, yeah. If you
Have it
Wait, are
want
we
walk
still
something that
around.
looks
talking?
like that,
Are we still talking about robot pets?
yeah, you could have
You
anything
would
you
want a
want as an
robot?
android.
Yeah, you could make a 3D model of whatever you want, stick an AI in it, and boom, you
Could
got
have
a
a
pet.
three-headed dog.
Wow.
Why? Why would you want that?
You know, if you have
See,
to,
we're-
anything to guard, it's a great guard dog.
Yeah, I
Susceptible to
suppose.
music, but good dog anyways.
got metal teeth. You could even charge your phone on it. Just
Oh my gosh, that'd be great.
plug
You
your
call
phone
your
into
dog
it.
over and have it be your charger.
Yeah, there's so many possibilities with a robot dog. It's amazing.
That's the ultimate portable charger.
And you never have to
He
clean up
could also
after
be a
it.
speaker. You could just have him
Oh,
play
like a
music all the
Bluetooth-
time.
like
Yeah,
a
like a
Bluetooth
Bluetooth
speaker?
speaker.
Or he could be your
It'd be
alarm
great
in
for
the morning.
parties.
Wait, you could what?
He could be your alarm in the morning. So to turn
Oh,
it off, he
okay.
runs away and you have to chase after your dog to turn the alarm
that's
off.
a great
and then you're
idea.
up and ready for the day.
I thought you said mow your lawn, and then I was picturing a robot dog standing on two legs, just mowing your
I
lawn.
mean, it could. It could be the mower.
It could
Yeah,
turn
it
it. You
could
could
just-
have a mower as a pet. We've solved
You
it,
could-
guys. We hit the art revolution. We're in it now.
An AI mower. That's your pet. Okay.
It'd be great. You never
Well,
have to
that
mow
was
your lawn.
interesting.
And then it can also shovel snow in winter. Solves all your
Oh
problems.
man.
Yeah,
So
a multi-purpose AI mower / snowblower / dog.
Exactly.
Very interesting.
It
it's
does
gotta
it
be a
all.
dog though.
I had a topic that I thought that in the course of our AI conversation could easily just get thrown in there, but it didn't really happen. So I'm just gonna throw it in now.
Go for it.
Okay.
So do you guys know the website Quora?
I've
Yes.
heard of it.
It's like Yahoo Answers, right?
Yeah, but it's much better than that because like the people anybody can make an account, but it seems like every once in a while I'll see like science questions, like you can just go on in there and ask some hypothetical question or some actual question about how the world works. And I see a lot of the people who respond are like actual scientists with PhDs.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's actually a really nice website. And I was on it the other day and I saw somebody ask the question, what if death didn't exist? And I was reading through, there was lots of answers. Not actually, I don't think any of them were from like actual scientists or anything. But a lot of people talking about like, you know, world population, like overpopulation, and we'd have an
Mhm.
issue with that. And I was just wondering what you guys, your take would be on it. Like, if death didn't exist, what do you think? Do you think there'd be any problems? Do you think it would solve
Yes.
some
Well,
problems?
okay, I have a question
I
with
think
that
there
then.
would absolutely be a problem.
So,
Rebecca's got a question.
okay. So if death doesn't exist, you can't die from like starvation then, right?
But you can
So-
die from
Right.
getting shot. You can die from like there's like no diseases or anything like that, but like you can still die from
Oh, I was under the impression you just
Getting in
can't die whatsoever.
No, that would imply that death does exist, Carson.
Yeah.
So
I'm just
Oh,
wondering, like,
death
shoot.
does not
So-
exist.
like I'm
Okay.
thinking there could be a severe resources problem, but if we can't die from starvation, then what happens if people don't get enough food to eat? Do they just like, does it? I don't know. Do their bodies just kind of waste away, but they're still alive? I know I took us in a really
Yeah.
dark turn, but
No, I see what you mean.
Maybe,
Though.
again, I don't know exactly. I don't know how our biology would actually work if death didn't exist, because maybe our bodies would, like, after a time they would go into some sort of like hibernation or like some sort of self-induced coma.
Yeah,
to-
it would be like
to
a
avoid-
self-induced coma, most likely.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's some sort of like, you know, protection systems built in that doesn't like. So maybe death does exist, but it's just our bodies have developed such great ways of avoiding it that it's never even a problem.
So then, okay,
Wars would
this
be
is kind of
interesting.
Yeah.
this is kind of weird. So like, if you were to like, oh man, I don't know how to word this right. So if you were to just like lose everything but your head,
I was thinking about that too.
yeah, if you were just like decapitated and your head's laying there on the ground,
You're just alive.
what's still alive? Is it your legs, your
It's probably where
arms?
your brain is, right?
I mean, it's your brain, but what happens when you just hit the brain in half?
Oh,
Cut the brain in half.
Yeah,
like if your brain, like if you get blown up or
Uh,
something, and your brain becomes
it's
more
just
than one piece.
yeah, it's just like thousands of pieces. Is there
Oh,
thousands of you,
I
or
had
is
this
it one
exact
you?
thought. I had this exact thought when I was watching the new Deadpool movie, because it's a very very gory movie. He often gets chopped up or blown into pieces.
Yeah,
And that's just the what Deadpool does, right? But he always comes back because that's his superpower is he can heal himself.
regenerates. Yeah,
But I was thinking about that as he's getting like a bunch of things chopped off. There's a scene in the movie where like his legs get or his lower half of his body gets completely chopped off.
sure.
And it's in some sort of like big accident that this happens. And him and his friends like leave and they take his upper body but they leave his legs. And then his legs grow back. And I was thinking, well, why wouldn't you who's to say that they shouldn't have taken his legs and let his upper body grow back? Like why was it that his
Oh,
upper
maybe it has
body
to do
yeah.
was
with
the most
complexity.
important part? Like what if he was
Oh, complexity.
decapitated
Sure.
and
He would grow the rest of his
would you take his
body
body
back.
and just let his head grow back, or would you take his head and make his body grow back?
I mean,
No, I
considering
think
how
I think
complex,
Rebecca nailed it.
I think with how complex the brain is, that would probably be the part that would like from which everything else would grow off of. Because I imagine it would be easier to grow back like your legs than a whole brain with how many neurons and how incredibly
Right.
complex the brain is.
No, I agree with that because I'm thinking of a starfish right now. If you were to cut a leg off of a starfish, you wouldn't grow a new starfish off of the leg. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
that does make sense. But there are some creatures, aren't there some creatures who do reproduce that way? Like a body part
Like an
comes off of
amoeba?
them and then
They probably have to
what
be
no,
really
how
like
does
basic life forms, right?
Yeah, like an amoeba. I know amoebas can like split in half and then they're two amoebas.
well that's like what any single-celled life form does.
But that's what we're saying though, is that Deadpool
He has many
is a
cells.
yeah, he's many cells with a
But isn't
complex part.
well, this got really off topic.
Ah,
I
I'm fine
mean,
with it though.
it got to a different topic at least. There was something though I wanted to bring up in that what if death didn't exist conversation. Because the person who posed it didn't those were the exact words. They didn't really add any complexities in there like, imagine that humans somehow evolved to become resistant to death in some sort of
Mhm.
way. They just said, what if death didn't exist? So I take that to mean that what if death never existed? And if death never existed, I would argue that life couldn't exist.
You know what would happen is Thanos would show up because there's too many people and resources are getting consumed. He would snap his fingers and problem solved.
I mean, yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
That's such a vague question. Is my problem with that Cora ask or whatever the name of the website is. That's my problem with that question. It's too vague. There's no real answer to it.
It just
Yeah.
spawns so many other questions.
But
Yeah.
like think about it though. Let's go way back in time to like the point when life, the abiogenesis, the point where life comes to being. And we're pretty sure that life started off with just like complex molecules that were able to reproduce themselves. But what if so we go later on down the line to we get to the point where there's more complex organisms, where in our normal history or normal timeline, they would be able to die.
Oh, I
But
just had
in
a
this
thought
new timeline,
with this.
they don't have the ability to die. So the whole process of natural selection and evolution wouldn't be capable of producing anything more complex than, simple life. You know
Okay,
what I
here's a
mean?
question though. What about carnivores?
What
So
about them?
they, I mean, they eat meat, they eat creatures, but if death
Right.
doesn't exist, how does that work?
Um, maybe they just wouldn't evolve at all. Would there just be like no carnivores
Just
in this
herbivores?
timeline?
But
Yeah,
then
would it just
what about, okay, no, I guess that makes sense. Because, like, do plants count as this? Like, does that mean
Yeah, that
plants
that that was the next
never
question I
die
had is
either?
yeah. Well, I mean, I
Yeah.
guess they just regrow, but does a leaf die?
I'm fairly certain. I'm fairly certain that carnivores would not exist in this
Okay.
death doesn't exist timeline. But
I
but
think
I
I
would
would agree
argue
with
again.
that.
I would argue that complex organisms, that how we know them today, like the all the species that exist today, life wouldn't even be possible the way we know it.
I
Because
mean, yeah, it'd be completely different.
in order for these organisms to evolve to get to the point where what we see today, death had to be a thing. There had to be some sort of thing that these organisms were avoiding, and so
Right,
they
and
had
there's
to
no
change them.
advantages.
Yeah,
Right, there had to be some sort of
yeah,
natural selection process, and that's how all of
I see what
biology
you're saying.
works. So I'm saying if death didn't exist, biology
Oh,
itself wouldn't exist.
because there'd be no advantage in getting more complex. That wouldn't, because you don't have that
Right.
type
Because
of death.
yeah, if you never die, you're at the best point in your species.
So in this timeline where death doesn't exist, if something
Well,
like
that's
a
crazy.
human came into being, it would be entirely random. Because we're still saying that
It
they're
would be
able
like
to
a
these
mutation, is all it would be.
yeah, it would be a long string of mutations that had to lead to something like a human. But even then, there would only be yeah, there's nothing directing nothing directing this mutation process. So if mutation did occur to get to a human, it would be truly random. Whereas like how biology works now, or in the real world, uh, because of natural selection, the mutations that led to us were not random. Like the actual mutations were random, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
reason they kept existing and they propagated was not random.
But in this one, it
So
would just have to randomly attain a human.
And chances of
right,
that, I imagine, would be very, very small.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
That's a very
extremely
interesting
small.
thing to point out there. That my other little topic I had, if we're ready to switch, I don't know if we are, but it was I guess we can just throw it in there and just have it be in the middle. But in what so my idea was, what will humans evolve to next? What's our next step of our evolutionary process?
Well, but I mean, are we going to be able to continue to evolve? Because at this
Yeah,
point,
as I say,
like,
Well,
we've.
I'm saying like minor things because I saw the reason why I thought of this is because I saw a picture a year or two ago and it was like this is what the ideal human would look like to survive car crashes.
Oh,
And
okay,
it's
that'd
oh
be
just like they're
interesting.
yes,
very short, they have like bumpy heads, like everything is like really flat and everything, and it's like this is the way humans would evolve to survive more car crashes. And it got me thinking of
Oh,
like,
that's interesting.
yeah, it's like what minor changes could happen to a human to evolve it to survive like in our situations we
But
have
okay,
now.
question though, what would happen first? Humans evolving into that, or technology improving such that car crashes would no longer be a danger?
yes, that's exactly what I was gonna say, Rebecca. It's more likely that we won't have cars because the whole process of evolution takes place over scales of like millions of years. We're
Mm.
not going to have cars in a
And
million
technology is
millions of
advancing so
years.
At least
fast.
not cars that
Yeah.
can crash, you know? Maybe self driving cars will just be everywhere and then car crashes will no longer happen.
Now, see, okay, that makes more sense then. That was just something I had thought of. It was like, because I saw that picture and I was like, That'd be weird.
That would be really weird.
Here's the thing, though. I've thought about this question too before. Like, are humans able to evolve,
Or have
the
we
way
just
in our current
skewed the
age?
natural selection?
Yeah. Well, natural selection
It
occurs.
doesn't exist for humans.
Well, the reason that natural selection occurs is because of certain outside pressures, and in the field of biology, or in biology, there are two outside pressures that can dictate the course of evolution. One of them is environmental pressures. That's the more obvious one, the one that seems more logical when we observe, like, okay, well, here's our ancient ancestors were tree these tree creatures. They stayed up in the trees, but then when the environment changed and there were suddenly not as many trees and there was just a lot of flat grassland, we had to learn how to traverse over this grassland. So eventually we started walking upright. That's
Gotcha.
pretty logical, makes sense. The other thing that dictates how natural selection molds life only occurs in beings that reproduce sexually, because it's sexual pressures. Because in almost every species that reproduces sexually, there's some sort of like a list of attractive features that help dictate like who reproduces with who, and who gets to reproduce and who doesn't. So that is the one pressure that we have as a civilization have not eliminated. We have, for the most part, eliminated the environmental pressures because we can control our environments. We have air conditioning, we have heating units, we get to go indoors.
Yeah.
But we haven't eliminated the sexual pressures.
But what about things like that we haven't cured yet, like cancer? Like, could there be a possibility that in the future humans would change to be more resistant to cancers and other diseases that we just haven't cured yet?
Like, we may never find a cure for it, but the humans that are more receptacle to it will not. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, we'll just slowly evolve in a way that we won't have as many diseases just from resistances and people.
If we don't manage to cure them
on.
first.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. The big thing, though, about how evolution works, though, is if natural selection is going to occur, it has to occur before the organism reproduces. So, like something like cancer, if we want the human species to try to evolve to a point where we're resistant to cancer, it would only be the cancers that strike in like childhood.
Oh, that's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before
Gotcha.
humans tend to reproduce.
Before they can pass on their genes.
And I'm not like a cancer expert, but I'm pretty sure that most cancers occur in humans that that are older.
That's true, and have had a chance to have kids already.
They've already had a chance to have kids.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I could see that.
So yeah, it's interesting stuff. I do remember seeing that picture of the human that has evolved to survive car crashes, Carson. And it's fun to think about, but at the same time,
it doesn't
I don't
make
think it'd
sense
be
with how fast technology moves.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be even feasible. Yeah.
Ooh, I just looked up a picture of it. That looked a lot more horrifying than I expected.
It is, right?
I have to remind myself of what it looks like. Just describe it for me.
Just the shape is so weird. There's like no neck, so it's like a head.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, it's like because it prevents you from having whiplash and stuff like that.
Can't hurt your neck if you have no neck. And like his ribs are really weird. They're like really. There's like a lot of them, and they're really defined. It's hard to describe. It's pretty freaky though.
Ugh.
And it looks like it's already been memed.
Interesting.
Oh, of course it has.
That's not really surprising.
What?
Humans can meme anything.
That's where the evolution for humans has evolved to, is we can meme anything.
Everyone will just become a meme.
We're pretty good at that as a human race, honestly.
One of our top skills.
um,
We've really covered a lot of big subjects. You know, I feel like slowly our podcast will sort of question and answer all of the big problems that we have as a society.
Like, how can
Yeah,
we make a
we're the-
robot dog that can also be your alarm clock and your mower? You know, big
Yes,
questions like
exactly.
that.
I mean, before us, people weren't even thinking about how can I have a pet, a mower, an alarm clock, and a phone charger all in one.
But now we've
Huh?
addressed the question, so scientists can
No.
start working on that.
Yes. That would be a very interesting day when that actually happens.
Okay, we can just say that you guys have all heard it here first.
Yep. Just send us the check in the mail, and we're good to go.
Because now we have an audio record of the idea being created.
Yeah, people will look back on this day. It'll probably be a national holiday.
June 24th.
June 24th. What's on the fourth floor day?
Oof,
We need a better title than that, then.
definitely.
Just
Oh,
call
you-
it WOFF Day.
WOFF Day?
I don't know if I like WOFF Day.
It's easier to say than what's on the fourth floor day.
That's fair.
Of course, then people might think it's Waffle Day, and there could be some confusion.
Yeah, they'd be confused. Yeah.
And
No, we
disappointed.
definitely have to keep it. We definitely have to keep it what's on the fourth floor day.
See, what the audience doesn't realize is we've gotten to a point where we have our own AI running our podcast. So we're all AIs right now.
Oh yeah, we're not
There
humans.
is no human. No. We have programmed AIs to just have a conversation for an hour.
Yeah, we solved that, or I shouldn't say we. I should say the real podcast members solved the issue of how to get AIs conversing a long time ago. And as soon as we figured that out, we immediately put it into effect and created a podcast for it.
And see, and other people are making AIs that debate humans, but here we've seen AIs that debate AIs, which I think
Oh,
is the
yeah.
next level.
Carson. I do want to see that though. We'll have to put a link
Yeah, we'll
to
put
that
some
in the show
for
notes.
sure.
Yeah, I
Um,
haven't seen the video, so I can't guarantee there is one, but it seems like there would be one out there somewhere.
along with maybe a picture of the human that can survive car crashes. That
We'll put
definitely
that.
have to
We'll
go in
also
the show
put
notes.
Detroit. We'll also put Detroit Beyond Human and
Becoming
Cyberpunk
Human.
2070. Becoming Human. I forgot
Becoming
what it was.
human. Yeah.
You've said
And
like
then we'll
three
also
different
put-
names for it, but that's fine.
Yeah. We'll also put
It's-
Cyberpunk 2077 in there.
Well, in the meantime, I think we've run out of time. We had a really good conversation today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was certainly a lot of fun.
There was no tornado excitement, unfortunately. Maybe next time.
Or
Reporter in the
fortunately,
field.
rather.
I don't know.
Yeah, report. Rebecca Fitzgerald, reporter in, where are you? Tulsa?
Norman,
Norman.
Norman, Oklahoma.
Norman,
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. Signing
Storm
off.
Chasers live.
Maybe
Well,
next
anyway,
time.
this is what's on the fourth floor. And what is on the fourth floor, guys?
It's our AI robot dogs.
They're just it's a giant dog park. They're all just running around, having a grand
It's a
old
dog
time.
park.
You have some alarms. You have one that's a lawnmower and a snowblower.
Let's see. We also have the human that can survive car crash.
Oh, yeah,
already
he's
evolved.
taking care of all
It's
the dogs
already-
up there.
Hello?